Right now, hidden within your DAW lies a secret weapon you're probably overlooking in your mixes. But what if I told you that legendary mixers like Andrew Sheps, Tom Algi, and Dave Pensado rely on this very weapon to craft their iconic mixes we all love? In this video, I'm unveiling some jaw-dropping techniques to wield this incredibly underrated trick that pros use to musically fix and enhance their mixes that will revolutionize yours within minutes.
Cool, so what are the tricks?
So glad you asked. Have you ever fought with the kick drum's low-end power in a mix with EQ? Or maybe the bass's low-end beef overpowering whatever the kick hits? Or maybe even just a hair too much boominess from the bass in general? Oh, and what about working with fuzz or distorted bass tones? Which I'm sure you've done some weird EQ moves to tame that growl and fizz. And now that I think about it, how about EQ boosting a snare's top end only to get more cymbals thanks to the bleed? Let's see, there's also harshness in distorted guitars around 1 to 4K, and the 1 to 2K region, which is crucial. Oh, and what about dealing with palm mutes in a guitar performance that can often muddy up the entire mix? Or perhaps you're fighting with vocal performances that have a ton of nasaliness. I'm not 100% sure that's even a word, but I'm gonna stick with it. But it's a very annoying problem that plagues vocal performances. And if you're not careful with a lot of these frequencies, the mix is gonna sound really abrasive because all the other instruments are all competing for this range. It's one of the biggest pains in the to deal with in any mix. So when I named all these problems, I'm betting your first thought was,
Why don't you just use an EQ, John?
sure, EQ could fix it, but perhaps you've run into a scenario like I have, where you start EQing out all the stuff you don't like that you're hearing, and all of a sudden the source doesn't sound like it previously had. You've accidentally neutered the mojo that makes the track special.
I've lost my mojo!
And you end up finding the mix again until you just end up clearing out the entire chain and starting all over. You end up finding yourself frustrated because you're in the same spot. Well, that all happens because we've typically built a mix around those original moves, so when you find yourself tiptoeing back into that direction with all the problems that I listed, you just feel like you're in a never-ending hamster wheel. So this trick that the pros use will help ease these problems out first to maintain the natural character of the source.
So what is this miracle trick, John?
The holy de-esser. Hello? Hello? Whew. I thought I lost you there for a second. But trust me, knowing how to use a de-esser like the pros is going to be a complete game changer. Because we all know a de-esser is a very focused compressor that reduces the harshness at specified frequency points via a bandpass filter option or a range of frequencies with a high-pass filter option. And by understanding this, we're going to use that good old-fashioned de-esser to fix all these issues in a mix. For this example, I'm going to be using Sheps Omnichannel because it has 2 onboard de-essers, which makes all this really simple. Plus, you can select frequencies between 20 Hz all the way up to 20K on each of the 2 de-essers. I'm really ecstatic about that. Get it? I'm especially proud of that joke.
Oh my God, that was so funny!
Okay, so let's start with the woofiness and boxiness on guitars, bass, kicks, toms, and vocals. You can set a bandpass filter on a de-esser, focusing to zero in on the low-mid frequencies to tame the woofiness. To get the bass and kick to sit better, one cool thing you can do with the Sheps Omnichannel is sidechain the kick drum, and have the de-esser sidechain the bass on the overlapping frequencies. And using a de-esser in this capacity, as opposed to a normal compressor, will have a tad more gentle of a sound, which lends to more musicality within the mix of these instruments. And using a de-esser focused on the low mids will also help with smoothing out palm muted guitar parts. And if you have a really abrasive amp sound, often a de-esser on the guitar or bass DIs can really smooth that out. For distorted bass tones, use a de-esser in the 1 to 3K region where the bass growl lives just to take the edge off and achieve a smoother tone. And this same trick will work on nasally resonant sounds found in distorted guitars within the 2 to 5K region. And with cymbals playing the snare sound, throw on a de-esser with a high-pass filter band to focus on the high-end frequencies. And fine-tune it to only de-ess the sibilance of the track created by the cymbal bleed. Now this next trick is one I created based on a trick a lot of modern metal mixers will use with a really annoying issue in a drum mix. So when dealing with the metal production, everything needs to be at 11. I mean, Spinal Tap did make the rules, so we gotta follow them, right?
These go to 11.
And because of this, controlling dynamics becomes the biggest pain in the ass. And one part of a metal mix, specifically the drums, is getting one of the most annoying instruments right. So the trick would be using Waves L2 to even out the center image between the snare and the cymbals in the overhead mics. But because it's a broad stroke move, you can sometimes kill the vibrancy and the excitement of the cymbals, which are needed to bring movement to the mix. I set on this trying so many different types of tricks with EQ to get this to work better in a mix. And even thought that maybe something like Wave Center can do the trick. Spoiler warning, it can't really do the trick. And nothing was quite giving me the results I was looking for, until it dawned on me that I could use a de-esser, but not in the way you're probably thinking. With the Chef's Omni-channel, I added the insert panel to the very front of the signal chain, and I added wave smack attack and removed all the sustain. This way, with the overhead tracks, I was only hearing the transient frequency information. Then with the de-esser section, going into the options window and starting in stereo. Then with the first de-esser, find the frequency range where the stick attack lives, and then with the other de-esser, find where the body of the attack lives. With both de-essers, select the narrow bands, and I like to aim between roughly 3 to 6 dB of de-essing only on the snare hits. Disengage the transient shaper, and fine-tune the de-essers to taste. Ideally, you want to find this during a chorus section, so you can find the hard hits that the drummer performed, and then find the sweet spot for when the de-esser goes to work. Then as the track plays, find sections where you want the snare to have more impact and hit harder, like let's say at the start of a verse, a bridge, or a breakdown, and ease on the de-esser with automation on those sections. And these are just some of the genius tricks pros use to get those spectacular sounding mixes we all want for ourselves, which is why you'll want to watch this video right here for some more epically genius mix tricks from pro mixers you'll want to steal for yourself.